Hello, welcome to Blackjacks. This is Cousin Steve's rear fender mudguard thing off of his GL1000, which is quite an old one. He's building some sort of bobbery thing out of it, and as you can, I don't know why you can see that, but that's pretty nasty. What he wants to end up with is something along those sort of lines, which is a bit unfortunate because I can't really see what it looks like, but you get a general idea. There's a bloody great hole there. The first thing we need to do is find the extent of the problem, so I've got a sanding disc on the grinder, and I'm going to stand up, cut my head off, and start knocking some of this paint off. Right, with that out of the way, so quick grinder tool change. Flappy paddle disc. The trick with using the sanding disc is that you want to remove the paint, you don't really want to bite into the metal. Flappy paddle discs bite into the metal too much. They're quite good for knocking things off that you don't want. So I'm grinding that down until the bracket gets thin enough that it starts going out red hot, and just working around the spot weld until it's completely gone. That's the bracket out of the way. Under no circumstances should you change the disc by hand. Always use the proper tools. The next problem is, what are you going to do about filling the holes in? This is going to want a patch, and that is a little bit too big to just fill with weld, so we'll probably put a patch there as well. So let's have a look at making patches for mudguards. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to go back there with a hole, back there, about there with a hole, and then come from there to there to there to there. You don't want pointy corners on patches because you get more distortion and it's hard to lose them. Best way to make a decent round hole is apparently with one of these, especially if the drill's going the right way. That's probably why cordless drills are a better idea as well. Having wiped all the old lines off, you want to try and keep these lines as straight as possible if you're making the patch, because it's easier to cut straight lines than it is to cut a wibbly line. It's the same as the last wibbly line you cut. Axle blade. So I'm going to start up again. If I take that and just plonk that on there, and I can stop talking to Pender in my mouth. Get a line from there to there. So then take this cutter and chop that out. Normally I'd use a jigsaw for this, but you know, it's YouTube. So you've got to discut everything. one hole. Give it a quick burr. Just check how thick that is. 1 mil. So we got a bit of 1 mil to go in there. And maybe a piece of card, which I completely forgot to prepare earlier, and a dirty finger. You always got to give it a dirty finger. So now we need some 1 mil steel. Purposes to cut that out, cut the steel out slightly bigger, see about making it fit, and maybe clean the hole up a bit. Excellent. I found a bit of steel with same thickness as the piece of cut out. It's a bit big. So the first thing to do is adjust that down to something like the size of the hole, which is what we cut the template for. Though quite what I've done with a felt tip pen remains to be seen. Because we're going to try and get some shape into it. If the thing's flat like that, you curve the middle in and the edges pull, so you want to cut it bigger than the hole. So at this point in time, the template is really just a rough guide. So I'm going to cut about 1/2 inch each side of that. It's 1 mil thick, so you could probably happily cut that with tin snips. Your mum's best scissors, or a bench knife if you've got one. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, nice. Which doesn't always go according to plan. Okay, so the problem is now that way doesn't fit, and this way it doesn't fit, because that's just going to rock across there. Now this is fairly easy to achieve because, like ladies in Havana with cigars, you just need to roll it on your thigh. But that's to solve the problem of it shaping the other way. So, what are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to take a hammer to it. What we need to do now is to make it curve this way. And to do that, I'm going to put a glove on. Just a piece of quarter plate. Something heavier would be better, but let's do it with a bit of quarter plate because that's probably something people can find. Keeping this fairly flat to the plate, you just lift it up a little, and then sitting on this edge. What you've got to watch for this is that when you're trying to make it into fit, you've got to go that way. If you end up doing that and folding the corners down, it's going to give the impression of fit, but still be flat in the middle, because that will sort of sit there much happier than a flat piece will. So hold it sideways on, maybe start in the middle, because that's where the creases would end up if you were to crease the corners down. And I'm lifting that up 6 to 8 mil, quarter, 5/16 of an inch in America, and just width of the hammer back from the edge. What we're trying to do is not put too many dents in it. Turn around. You can barely start to see a bit of a curve coming that way. So the next thing is to sit it on that high spot you've just created and work up, again out from the middle, work it again, holding it the same sort of distance up in the air. Turn it around, do the other side. If it makes it easier for you, you can kind of go put some pen lines on there for where you want to hit it with a hammer. That's optional. I'll probably try and go in the middle this time. You can see that from there, but that's starting to get a half decent curve. It's actually not a bad match for the mudguard, but it's losing it in this plane. So one of the things you need to do is avoid hitting the very edge of the plate, which is one of the reasons for cutting it bigger. When you're hitting it, you're making it a bit thinner and you're stretching it. So if you stretch it, this balloons up like that. If you hit the edge, that balloons up and it flattens it out. So try and keep, I don't know, half an inch or so from the edge. Don't hit too hard, you won't end up with nasty hammer marks in it. And kind of feel it, and I can feel that's flat there. So, I don't really need to mark it, but I can go and get it. Better. That's made a lot of difference, but you can see that's fitting better that way now than it was a few seconds ago. So you're hitting it on the plate. The object of the exercise is to flatten, not put dents in it, it's to catch the material between the flat of the hammer and the plate. So it comes out, because steel is quite elastic, it will move. So I'm just going to keep bashing away at this for a bit. What's starting to happen now is that I'm getting more curve that way and still not enough curve this way. But the point about that is, in theory, if we go back to easing it across the thigh, whoops, put it over my knee this time. Let's just try and get that edge to go. Now doing that kinky thing. We can get a shape back that way at the expense of this curve. So it's a fairly good fit at this point. It could be encouraged to go in there, but I think it's going to need a little bit more stretching in the middle. So back to that. Okay, well, after enough pounding, I'll take up a clamps, and I can try to patch it on the mudguard, but I don't know if you can see that, but that's dead flat through there. It's still low in essentially that area there. So try and speed things up a little bit. For a second, I'm going to take a pretty old and knackered, smelly, half a shop towel, few times. And the idea behind this is you create a version of the leather sandbag. There's better hammers for this too. Hold on 2 seconds. That's a bottom mallet. Something like that is a better tool to use, but I'm not here to use expensive tools. I'm here to show you how to do it. The stuff you should have lying around. So I want to raise this area here. So if you look at the rest of that, it's still where I've been hammering it. There's hardly any hammer marks, but I've just put a load in here. But that has stretched the material. Then I can take my shop towel, move that out of the way, come back. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to spread those out. I'm not trying to knock them flat. So what you've done is you've taken the ball end of the hammer, you put a dimple in it like that, which has stretched everything, and you're not trying to shrink it back in, you're trying to push the surrounding metal out. You can see where those have started to go, and it's kind of curving up. As this curve gets tighter this way, we can loosen that up by curving it back the other way. But let's see where we're at. Marvellous. So now, let's do that. What are you trying to do? I don't know. Sadly I don't have one handy, but a tyre is quite a good thing to be pushing it around at this point. So it's better, but it's still not there. So we just repeat that process again. So after several iterations of whacking it on the towel, bending it around the tyre repeatedly. Whoops, your head goes and you start putting it on the wrong way round. You reach a point where you can clamp it on. It doesn't look too bad, but the corners are up in the air. But the point about that is it's irrelevant. What you're interested in is how it fits around here. And that corner there needs pulling down a little bit. So let's just mark that one. The rest of it's fitting quite nicely. So I marked the corner where it wasn't fitting very well. So what I need to do is basically shove this out, which will bring that round. So kind of put that on the plate. Hit it with a hammer. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll go do that rear tyre thing again for a second. I'm going to say it's not very far off now. Right, so let's try trimming this down a little. I don't want to take it all off because still literally just setting it. Is stopping that edge from stretching is You know these are called aviation snips. Do you know why they're called aviation snips? They're called aviation snips because if you use them right, they fly through the job. And maybe this week's best made up fact. Right, take that and put it in the scrap bin before you stand on it. I think we're going to go give this another visit to the famous tyre of Tomcat. You can encourage the shape around with your thumbs quite a lot too. So you might need the that's just keeping one end up a little, pounded it with a hammer to try and get that curve a little closer. Where are we at? We just want to go this way a bit. And it's kind of I said that was not too horrible. And in the airplane. It's kind of within spin distance. COVID-19, don't go spitting at anything. So just push this that way a little. Floor, didn't want it anyway. I'm trying to tighten the curve that way and loosen it up. Now I've got the player. I'm around the two edges of my patch, along the edge of there. As long as I keep it moving, I don't put a kink in it. And that will generally tighten this curve up and loosen that one off. So we're kind of, more of those might do actually. Being too forceful with that. Okay, that is pretty close. So close, in fact, that I'm going to call it good enough. You could fit that from underneath, and it would sit up in there reasonably well. In fact, it fits so reasonably well from that side. What I might actually do is mark it like that. There we go. The scribe line, I would be cutting just outside of that scribe line because, as I occasionally remark, it's easier to file it off than it is to file it on. If you're trying to use tin steps and you're kind of like out here and squeezing like that, you're not doing your carpal tunnels any good. If you hold that lower handle on your upper thigh, get a bally hand there on this one. Back to rolling cigars in Havana. Then I can keep my elbow reasonably straight and just lean my shoulder into it. That's my upper body that's doing the work, not my carpal tunnels, carpal tendons. I think. Tin slips tend to roll the edge a bit, so sanding disc can pick up on the steel quite happily. So the reason I'm wearing a glove is not to keep sparks off, it's in case the steel gets ripped out of my hand. Okay. That's what we want to see. So this is lined up where the tap was, and let's put one either side. Because of course welding on the inside means I don't have to grind the outside off so much. So you can still blow it all in. So what I'm doing is using the clamp to pull the edges flush, because I can't be bothered to go by that. Walk over there and get a hammer and a dolly, and just sacking it where it touches. There we go. Right, so when it welded up, then fine disc on the sanding disc on there, rubber backing pad, that sort of arrangement, and take the tops off the welds. Don't try and sand the metal either side of it. Right, well actually there's a couple of holes that want dealing with. Now the trick dealing with holes is a big lump of brass. So if I put that on there, brass is backing the hole up. So that'll stop the weld from falling through. What will also happen is that the weld won't stick to it. You're sort of casting it in the hole at that point. There's got to come a point where you remind yourself that the material's only 1 mil thick. So that's 40 thou. Yeah, 40 thou. It's an the grider's making it thinner. So that's definitely within easy reach of a quick fill. It's not going to like bubble back through because the rust is carried on. And if you're really concerned about that, you could get in there with a finger sander and clean the back of the weld up. There you go. That is basically how you do that. So, I hope that was useful. I'm going to get on and fill this one in now, and catch you next time. Take care.